Tiago Pinto is joining us now. I'm Carter Lutz. Pleasure. Thank you for joining.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Brazilian.
Brazilian, yes.
Tell us a little bit more about your journey, about your start.
So here's the interesting thing about my start. I always loved sports, right? So to me, I'm been very fortunate to work in sports all my life, basically all my career. But the way I started up, I'm from the south of Brazil. The south of Brazil is a little bit like New England in America was at the time, where all the shoe factories were. And as it happened with New England, right, globalization and things went somewhere else. But kind of the heart of the industry stayed there. And, around, I was lucky to be around when one of the large shoe manufacturers in Brazil decided to launch a sports brand. It was something new from, we were traditionally women's and men's shoes, more women's shoes. Nobody knew much about sports. And who knows sports? And, I always loved sports, I've been around, passionate. I had a background in advertising, ended up, getting my career started in sports. And then very young, became a brand manager of a brand. Things go, it became a global brand, and then I got hired by a true global brand, Nike, and then, 20 years later here, I live in Miami, neighbor to the and love it here.
You have an outstanding background, an outstanding career. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, no, you really have seen it all, you could say, in the sports world the last 20 years plus. And for you, with the marketing aspect specifically, it just must have changed drastically since you arrived.
I would say, one of the most telling changes is to be here at and seeing the amount of people engaged in a sports management conference and people, and amazingly smart people, right? From the students to the panelists. I'm always in awe. I love this event. I come here every year. It's like, wow, man, this is so good. When I started I started this shoe company and people had no idea about sports management. I'm in the south of Brazil. People have no idea. We're trying to do things, and then we did volleyball shoes that became popular in Europe because the Brazilian players would play. Then we get calls from Europe. Then, we got to go global. That was the mid-'90s. Like, we got to go global. What do we do? How do we do this? There's no playbook. Then a friend of a friend told me, there's a course in New York that people teach sports marketing. It was the only course known in the world 30 years ago. And suddenly, fast forward, look where we are, the type of topics that are being discussed, revenue management, global expansion, sports as real estate, all these great things that are happening. Look at the new stadium that we have in town, right? This is happening. What a brilliant industry to be in that is fast-paced, has only increased its speed of innovation. It's not slowing down at any moment. And, I've been fortunate to been around, see a few things, which gives me a good vantage point to kind of, I've been here before. I kind of know how these things are going. It's a little bit like a surfer, right? Every wave is different, but you kind of been around. So I think, I'm loving where I am right now.
It's outstanding, and something you mentioned in the beginning of your journey is that you just wanted to be in sports, probably. Like, you didn't really know exactly what it was going to be, and it feels like with myself, along with a lot of my classmates, that's how we started. When you applied to schools, I just want to work in sports. I just want to work in sports, and from there, your experience really takes off, but, that is how it starts. It's a love for the game. It's a passion for sports specifically, so it's cool to hear your point of view of how that, played a factor in your journey.
One day I was working at Nike. I was the marketing director for Brazil. I'm participating in a panel. And next to me is this gentleman that was the marketing director of one of the large shoe companies where I'm from. So everybody asked me the same. Did you fulfill your dream of being the marketing director for Nike? And I said, actually, that was so far beyond my imagination, working in sports and a brand like Nike and all that actually my dream was to work for this gentleman. The guy went pale and said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, that was the reality back then that we had back home." But I think, if you love what you do, I had the privilege of end up landing in a job in sports. And once I realized that was possible, I kind of also made my job, right? As I said, I was brand manager of a shoe company. Nobody had an idea of sports. Nobody was telling me what to do. But also, if I did nothing, that would go nowhere. So sometimes, you just have to roll up your sleeves. and build the job as you go. And then, oh, we could do this, we could do that, we could expand here, we could expand there. And then you kind of create your own thing. So, I didn't even see as a possibility to work in sports. But once I landed, I said, I'm not going to let this go away. And then that kind of drove me through my career. The highs and lows, you always figured out, because it's so good to wake up in the morning, and I love what I do, right? And I think that propels me into being more curious every day. I'm never lazy to learn something new, because it's something that I love. So I think it's, you work just as hard every day. You learn new tricks every day, because that's part of the fun. I think as an athlete, I would love to have been an athlete, right? And couldn't. I always played all sports that I could. I always played good enough to make it to the team, but never to really make it. So you kind of, you fall through the process. But I think as an athlete, you always want to be better, because there's always a new kid on the team. There's always a new trick to be learned. And I think, working in sports a little bit like that.
It's terrific. How can you relate to that, really, with your passion?
Man, it's funny that we have him, but ironic that he's sitting in this chair, because we have a mutual friend as Juice. He worked with the Marlins for some years, and Juice is actually the team barber for the Marlins, and he was a mentor of mine who, just like what you said with the story of the gentleman, that you were like, man, I wish that's who I worked with. Same with me. My story is similar to Juice's, where I once saw him on the cover of Miami New Times as the team barber for the Marlins, and fast forward, I made the cover last year of Miami New Times as the team barber for the Hurricanes and Miami Dolphins. So similar stories as someone who you've watched grow, and you follow in their footsteps to become, your own person. So I
love that story. That's unreal. I mean, you even see it with athletes. Growing up, a lot of these guys, basketball players, favorite player, Kobe Bryant, LeBron, the whole thing, and then they get to a chance where they get to stand right next to them. But now you're specifically working on the Brand Academy.
Yep.
So can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you guys are up to?
I'll do that in a second, just because you guys mentioned a name. To me, thinking of looking up to someone. I grew up, part of my childhood, I'm originally from Brazil, but I spent a bit of time in LA. So I think it was the luckiest time to be growing up in LA. It was Dodgers and Fernando Valenzuela. A couple of years earlier was Vince Ferragamo taking the underdog Rams to the Super Bowl finals, to the Super Bowl that was played in the Rose Bowl, which I lived very close by. And then we had Magic Johnson. So I grew up with that LA thing of sports. And then this kid shows up, Kobe Bryant, and puts in the attitude, right? That first All-Star game against Michael Jordan, and then the whole Mamba mentality. Then he left Adidas and joined Nike at the time, kind of around the time I had joined Nike, and I could see the work, the attitude that we just were talking about, getting better every day. And then fast forward one day, I'm meeting a friend that was working with Kobe at the time. And I called her up. Hey, Andrew, I'm here in LA. Let's grab a coffee. She said, well, come tomorrow, because Kobe's not going to be in the office. He's very intense. So I want you to be here when he's not here so we can have a chat. I'm having a chat with her. Phone rings. She's, quickly, addresses the call and then looks at me. Well, we got to wrap it up. He's just parking the car outside. He wants to have a quick chat about something. So as I approach the door, he comes in and then says, hey, Kobe, this is Tiago, a friend of mine from my Gatorade time. And then says, where are you going on a rush? Or I think she mentioned something that I like soccer, right? And then he says, where are you going on a rush? I said, well, I got to go. I'm working with the Brazil national team. They're down the road in the hotel for a game tomorrow or something. And then said, sit down. Let's have a chat about soccer. I was blown away. Everything that he knows about basketball, right? He gave me a lesson of why he had brought a coach from Barcelona to teach his kids how to play soccer with the Barcelona mentality, because it's collective play and all that. Suddenly you realize that once you admire someone, right, how great they are, they're great people, right? And the thought that led him to that, I was blown away. And then, as I said, we can always learn new tricks. I kept that in mind, the guy's always looking forward. So that was throughout my career, which ultimately led me. I ended up in Miami with corporate careers moves. I ended up in Miami, and then I did my first business, which is a soccer clothing brand. And then while I was working for the Marlins, being in Miami for a while, I could see, soccer just popping up. Kobe Bryant had seen this in LA 10 years earlier. The Moss family, Beckham, the Messi family have seen that they are building this thing here. And I said, there's so much going on. Let me go independent. I'm a very entrepreneurial person, a bit like Kobe, right? Thinking of don't want to compare myself to him, but in the thought that you can always do better, what is the best? And I thought, I've seen so much going on in sports. I had the privilege throughout my career of seeing different perspectives, right? Why don't I create a shop where I can talk to people, engage with people, with brands, with clubs, with different sports projects, and bring a little bit of that so we can all improve the industry of sports in Miami. That's what led me to creating the Brand Academy. So I have clients here in America. I have clients in South America where I do a lot of work. And the idea is using Miami as a centerpiece, projects that can land in Miami, right? That I can bring investors or brands to invest in Miami, as I'm doing for a project that I'm leading for the World Cup. So I'm bringing a lot of brands from different parts to activate Miami, because this is going to be one of the epicenters of the World Cup. But also what is going on in Miami that we can then translate into other parts of the world as well. So that is something that I'm highly motivated in. I think we have great talent in Miami. Right, I can't wait to get a couple projects and knock on Professor McNairn's door and say, hey, can you send me a few of your good people to work on a few projects, because I think Miami has all the potential. There's great signs. We were just seeing about all the 5 sports we have. Formula One. You know what? They're sitting the world, by the way, has Formula One, the 5 big sports, and then marathon and PGA. And we until last year we had a rugby team. Who could tell there's professional rugby in America? We had all this going on, the World Cup. Everything is happening in Miami, right? And we have this amazing talent. We have amazing opportunities like today here at That talent is we have the talent. We have, fortunately, economically, Miami is doing very well as well with all these investment companies coming to Miami. I think we're in a great, this is a great place, great time. To be willing to do a project in sports.
It's unbelievable, the growth in Miami, and that's all it's about with sports. Continuing to grow, exponential growth. Did you ever think it would get this crazy with the Miami sports? You didn't even mention we just hosted a national championship. It's event after event. What do you think about all this? I know you just kind of touched on it, but
no, quick personal story. I got a call one day, January 2015. I just had been promoted from managing the Gatorade business in Brazil to managing Latin America. I had the well-established home base in São Paulo, in Brazil. I'm from the south of Brazil. São Paulo is not far from home. My wife and kids loved living in São Paulo. Life is set. That moment you say life is set. I'm happy, working for Gatorade, love it. I'm managing Latin America. São Paulo is a natural hub and close to the main cities. I'm good. So I get this call from my boss at the time, a gentleman that also like me, and I'll get to him and his lesson he taught me. Hey, we're relocating you to Miami. I go home and tell my wife, right? You got to tell the wife, hey, we're moving to Miami. She says, Miami? Really? And I said, well, it is what it is. It's a job. And she said, can we wait until the summer so we can get kids to start class at the right time? So let me negotiate. So I negotiated. It was good because then we start coming to get to know the city, where we're going to live. And the first time I came, she was not with me. And I drove around. Because, when I come for work from Miami, you stay in Brickell. Me, a lot of going to the Hard Rock and other sports places. That's what I did, right, working in sports. And then we drove south. One day I was working in the Blue Lagoon, and I drove south because a friend said, "Oh, you got to drive, south. You get to see, Coral Gables and the Grove and South Miami." And I drove south. I actually drove by here on Red Road, and I was like, I called my wife. I don't think we really know what Miami is. And then a couple of weeks later, she flew with me and spent a couple of weeks. And we're like, this is nice,
Yeah.
right? Then we moved here, and my boss, this gentleman, Ricardo Arias, told me, there's a problem with Miami. I said, what's the problem? He said, you'll never want to leave. And
true.
and
100%.
in corporate jobs, they move you around every 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So of course the time came. I got a call again. Hey, we're relocating. Now I was working for the global team at Gatorade. Hey, we got to relocate you to Chicago. So it's me coming back
Sunny
home.
State to the Windy City. You're like, I don't know about all
Go to
that.
my wife and say, you know what, relocating to Chicago. She said, well, I don't know what about you. Me and the kids are staying behind. I think you better commute. And that's what we did. I commuted for a few years, and then at a certain point, another relocation that I left PepsiCo, which was an amazing company to work with for the Gatorade brand. And then I said, I'm leaving because, we fell in love with Miami. You could see at the time, I want to say I saw that because that's 20, early, right before the pandemic. You could see we loved it here. It was a great place to be. But I think after the pandemic, I think no one could see it. But as soon as it started happening, I had just started my first business in Miami, and then I went to work for the Marlins. Kind of everything happened at once, and then working for the Marlins, I could see how deep the passion for local sports was. So that's what led me to creating the Brand Academy. First, the family reason. Nobody wants to leave, right? We love living here. Miami's great to live. And then everything happening. It's the global capital of sports. I was actually speaking to a professor. I came to speak in a class here at UM a couple of weeks ago, and we had to do this branding exercise. And the exercise I brought was, let's brand Miami the global capital of sports, because this is truly the global capital of sports. And then it's an innovative city, so we're open to different things and doing things differently. Fortunately, the business community is embracing that, so we see more and more investment coming too. Just what the owners of Inter Miami just did, and investing in the community, getting behind, and changing the requirements to build a stadium where once was a public golf course. So you see community engaged, right? The GMCVB does an amazing job helping the private and public sector promote great sporting events. providing the enormous talent, right? The courses that Professor McNary leads here and all the other marketing professors. It's amazing. So we have great talent, economical infrastructure, physical infrastructure, willingness, the climate. I think this is the global capital of sports.
I love it. Your enthusiasm for Miami is that. Go ahead. It's unbelievable. It's terrific, and for you, you've definitely been open-minded in your journey. You've had to be, especially with marketing and everything that's changed. How has that really helped you specifically, and how would you share that to the rest of the students here about taking sports as it comes?
Well, I think the nature of sports is unpredictable, and that's what we love it. Yeah. Right? You never know the outcome. Look at the UM Indiana game. Not that we like the final result, but what a game. Anything could happen at any moment, and then things happen at the last minute. And amazing. I think that's what thrills us in sports. So I think when you work in sports, like when I was working at the Marlins, right? It doesn't matter if the team wins or loses. Your job there on the marketing team, I was the chief marketing officer. My role was get people inside the stadium. So it's not the game, it's the T-shirt, it's the concert, it's the food, but you got to keep people engaged. So I think working in sports, you understand that the nature of the business is unpredictable. We were working I worked closely with a lot of soccer athletes at Nike. We were designing product 2 years ahead. The guy could be injured, he could be facing a downturn, but you got to be ready. So I think the nature of sports, it is unpredictable. So you got to live with that. And you got to plan for the unplannable. To me, that was the biggest learning that I have in sports. You got to plan for the unplannable, because you can't not plan. Because your team wins a national title, you don't have the T-shirts ready, the hat's not ready to go on the quarterback. That's unacceptable. Yeah. So you got to plan, right, for the unplannable. And then there's just the unplannable. But I remember one big lesson. I was managing Gatorade in Brazil, huge sponsor of the Brazilian national team. We got all this amazing campaign. We created a project with the Gatorade Sports Institute up the road in Bradenton. Custom formulas. We're in bed with the athletes. We have everything ready. Brazil's rolling through the World Cup in 2014, playing at home. We're going to revenge losing it in 1950. We got it covered. I feel great. I'm in the stadium. The last minute, the game's tied 1-1. Brazil-Chile, round of 16. Last minute, their striker hits the ball. The ball's going in. As the ball's going in, I'm thinking, I'm screwed. We didn't plan for the unplannable. Brazil losing to Chile in the round of 16. Luckily, the ball hits the crossbar, goes away, we go to penalties, and we win the game. That moment leaving the stadium, it was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. We didn't plan for the unplannable. What if Brazil loses? We had all the plans now in place if Brazil loses. Luckily, we didn't use the next round against Colombia. Guess what? Comes the semifinal. We got the worst beating in our history, lose 7-1 to Germany in the semifinal. Playing at home was horrible. But at halftime, the game's already, we were down by 5. It was horrible. We were able, from the stands, change social media, change the TV commercials, call the stations, make it happen, change the tone, right? This was clear we were not coming back. A couple of days later, there was this media note saying how tone deaf Brazilian companies were, because everybody's still at halftime. Yeah, we're gonna kill it, and yeah, we're gonna do this and this and that, and then after the game, still, because all the plans were set, people were not ready to react on the spot, and I take a lot of pride in that. But it was not because, oh yeah, we knew it. No, it was really, I know I can't say exactly the word what we did in our pants at that moment when that ball hit the crossbar. Great lesson learned.
Yeah, you got to be able to move on the fly, think on the fly, and that's how sports.
And you got to plan for the unplannable, because that's what we love, and everybody loves the sports about sports. It is unpredictable, right? And as a brand or as a club or wherever you're located in the spectrum of sports, you got to react to that.
Yeah. Well, you got to be able to think on the fly and, as you said, react. I love it. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today. You had a lot of great answers. We got a Kobe story in there as well, which is always amazing. We love Kobe. What did you think of the chair here today? We liked it?
When I came in and I saw the setup, I turned my back and let me check in to see where the my setup's going to be, because that's too cool for me. So I love it. The fact that I'm sitting here. Thanks for having me. What an honor, and what a setup.
Maybe he'll give you a haircut one day. But
oh man, I need one, definitely.
we have one question we're asking at the end to everyone. Do you have a biggest what if in sports or in Hurricanes history? But a what if, like if this guy didn't get injured, if this. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but we're doing it.
A biggest what if? I gotta search, but there's gotta be. I think that I have one. Not for me, but I deal with that every day. I have a 15-year-old son. Never was much into soccer. He got into different things, and then after the 2022 World Cup, he really got into sports quite late. 12, he really got into soccer. Now he's a big fan, and we keep talking, and he asks me, Dad, because being from soccer, I was being close to Brazilian players. I've been very close to FC Barcelona, and he keeps asking me, Dad, why did Neymar leave Barcelona? His last game for Barcelona, I don't know if people remember, it was played in Miami, where we had the El Clásico here in 2017, last game. He scored a goal, 2-2 Barcelona Real Madrid at the Hard Rock, and that was his last game. That day of the game, I'm having lunch with his agent in Wynwood, and he tells me, this is going to be the last game. I said, Armenio, his name. I said, Armenio, you got to be kidding, right? He's not leaving. Suarez, Messi, it's the biggest club in the world. No, he made up his mind. He's going to PSG. He wants to be the number 10. But who wants to be a number 10 at PSG if you're playing with Messi at Barcelona? And I didn't believe him. So to me, the biggest what if for my son. I think I'm too removed as a fan, right? I think for my son, I think would change probably that kid's outlook in sports if those guys were still playing together.
Thank you so much, Tiago. We really appreciate your time. That's all we got
you.
for today, though.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. It was really nice.